Charles, is this 8 years, 7 years? 7 years that we have been gathering together here in Beijing for this event. 7 years ago, the students and the faculty of BFA showed me a 3D film live at the Expo, which was a 3D movie made at the Shanghai World's Expo. And to think that this many years later, we're working in so many new fields in just this short period of 7 years is amazing to me. So today, I want to talk to you about the next generation of technology, and how it's going to be used, and why it's being implemented. And for that, we're going to talk about the next generation of consumers. First of all, here are our studio members of the AIS in Hollywood. And we also include many members from Silicon Valley, so including Litro. So we are half technology and half creative organization. And the things that we're working on include what you're seeing here. This is Director Gareth Edwards. He directed Star Wars, Rogue One, and he's actually using a virtual reality production camera control. So the AIS is working on technologies like this, and augmented reality, virtual production, which allows the director to be in the scene when he is making the decisions about how to produce. Artificial intelligence, because we know that all of this is going to take great computing power, and artificial intelligence is going to allow us to make our movies better. High dynamic range, or higher quality color gamut, HDR, and cloud computing, because all of this is going to create a need for high-speed computing that is not going to be available on the computers in your typical post house. This is a picture from Jungle Book from Disney last year, and you will see in the jungle here, the little boy here, is the only thing that's real. Everything else in that picture in the jungle, all of that is created by artists, thousands of artists, working thousands of hours with thousands of computers and thousands of hours of rendering to create that experience. And as more and more of the movies are made this way, because special effects and digital compositing are the best way to make these movies, as more and more of them are required, we need more and more computing power to achieve that, and that's why we are moving into the area of cloud computing. The other aspect of cloud computing is, if we're all working on a movie, but the movie is up in the clouds, I can have a creative team in Beijing working with a creative team in London, working with a creative team at Disney in Hollywood on the very same movie. So this is where we think movies are going. Why? Movies are they are more expensive to make. Therefore, we will all be paying more for a movie ticket in the next years when we go to the movie theaters. And we can watch movies now and stream them at home. So we have to make better and better movies, and that is due in no small part because the next generation of consumers is coming along. Now, these are people who are 16 to 19 years old, and right now, if you know someone who is in that age group, they will spend about 9 seconds to determine whether or not to stay watching a video or to scroll. And we've all seen it, but young people sitting there scrolling or on WeChat or looking at videos. So the consumers of today are multitasking and they want constant stimulation. So if we're going to make the movies and television programs of the future, we have to know that we have a different consumer. This is a group of people who are absorbing a great amount of their video on Facebook or other social media, as opposed to traditional broadcasters and services. 64%, and this is I think a global view, but 64% of young people want greater engagement with their content. They don't want to just be passive watchers of a television screen. They want to be in the movie. They want to have more of a connection to the content. That's why we're looking at VR and AR and all of these other technologies. We want to grab the attention of these young customers and give them more engagement. This is where they spend their day, widely on social media. A 17-year-old today met one of their closest friends online. They likely know not only how to write code, but shoot, edit, and distribute studio quality video content. So the young people coming up today, and this I'm sure for students or people associated with the Film Academy here know, they are coming up with an understanding of not only how to make movies, but make good quality movies. Charles told me that one of the first VR projects that was brought to him at BFA was by a student who 3D printed his VR camera rig. And that was the first VR project brought to BFA. So this is a young generation that are very capable of making good quality content. And if they are going to pay money to go to the movie theater or watch something or stream it, it needs to be powerful and good. So this is a future where people like me, of my age, learn to use the mobile phone and use the laptop. This is a generation that's coming up absolutely at home with it and using it in their daily lives. So let's talk about virtual reality, because there's something coming up from Steven Spielberg that I think will bring virtual reality back to center stage in the conversations. So we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. But let's talk about what we know about consumers. Right now, about 7% of consumers, this was a test done in the United States, research done in the United States, use VR on a weekly basis. About 11% are in a household with some sort of viewing device or use one weekly. So we're at the very early stages of VR. So the society, we see virtual reality being used in industrial applications by doctors and industrial manufacturers, automotive companies who can replicate a work situation and solve that problem much easier using virtual reality than not. So VR for the next year or two, we think will be very busy being applied in the industrial area. And at arcades and entertainment centers. Yesterday, Jake Black of Create VR, who you will hear from this afternoon, his team created Spider-Man VR, Ghostbusters VR, The Walk VR for Sony Pictures, and he's working on several for Sony now. Jake and I went to the VR center yesterday in Tokyo. It's a massive VR center with many, many employees, a restaurant, and a virtual beach, and a virtual rock climbing experience, and you can virtually snow ski. It is massive, and we think that in the next year or two, this is where you will go to get great virtual reality, because the cost of getting it at home and the quality that you're getting at home is not as great as it will be in the next few years. So you'll go to an entertainment center and maybe a movie theater to experience VR. Right now, virtual reality is about as familiar to the average consumer as the smartwatch. So if someone has an Apple Watch or knows about an Apple Watch or is aware of what an Apple Watch does, that same number of percentage of the population kind of understand what VR is. So we're early stages. Most of the population knows very little about VR. But the people that we have researched have indicated that virtual reality is here to stay. There are so many very big companies, all of the Hollywood studios, most people making movies now are showing great interest in working in VR or AR. We believe very strongly that virtual reality is going to be a part of our future, and it will be so certainly over the next 10 years. Finally, we did a test in the United States where we showed people a TV commercial on a flat screen, and then we showed them the commercial in a virtual reality headset. The blue line at the top shows you the response that the consumers had having watched it in virtual reality, and the other graph shows you what their response was watching an online video. So a VR experience has a much more powerful impact on the viewer, and that is good news for the movie studios, for advertisers, and major retailers who see VR as a way to really connect with consumers. Now, for the last few years, Steven Spielberg has been working on his next movie. His next movie is called Ready Player One. It's a movie based on the book by author Ernest Cline, and it is a book about virtual reality. The movie comes out on March the 30th from Warner Brothers, and I think we've got a trailer here for you. So let's play.
I live here in Columbus, Ohio. In 2045, it's still ranked the fastest growing city on Earth, but it sure doesn't seem like it when you live in the stacks. They called our generation the missing millions. Missing not because we went anywhere. There's nowhere left to go. Nowhere except the oasis. It's the only place that feels like I mean anything. A world where the limits of reality are your own imagination.
For most of you, you can remember Avatar. And prior to Avatar, most people were not aware of 3D movies. And after Avatar, so many people saw that movie that the whole world understood what movies in 3D were like and the value of seeing them. Last year, 1.2 billion 3D movie tickets were sold worldwide, 1.2 billion. So this movie is coming out at the end of March from Warner Brothers, and our sense is that it may inspire a new generation of young moviegoers to become excited about working in VR. And that after this movie comes out, many, many more people will be talking to you about VR than before it comes out. And so we're excited about that film, and it will be here in just a few short months. The estimates are that it could easily be 100 million people worldwide will see this motion picture. And if 100 million people worldwide see Steven Spielberg's vision of the future using virtual reality, it will make all of our jobs talking about virtual reality and working in it that much easier.